So we've got a healthcare giant on the ropes, reeling from a really tough year and some pretty staggering losses. But they're not taking it lying down. They have a bold, ambitious plan for a major comeback. Today, we're going to break down Centene's high-stakes strategy to turn everything around by 2026, pulling everything straight from their latest earnings report.
To really get the comeback story, you first have to understand just how deep the hole they're in is. And wow, it really all boils down to this one number, a loss of $1.19 per share in just the final 3 months of 2025. For a company this massive, that's not just a bad quarter, that's a huge red flag.
And look, the folks at the top aren't trying to sugarcoat it. The CEO, Sarah London, came right out and said it. 2025 was undeniably challenging, and we all know that's corporate speak for, yeah, it was really, really rough. So the big question is, how exactly do they plan to climb out of this?
So what's the game plan? Well, they've laid out a super clear 6-part roadmap for us. First, we'll dig into just how challenging their year really was. Then we'll jump into the comeback plan itself. We're going to break it down by looking at how they're stabilizing Medicaid, completely resetting their marketplace plans, and leaning on their big strength in Medicare. And then we'll wrap it all up by looking at their huge bet on a high-tech, AI-driven future. Okay, first things first, a challenging year. Let's get the full story behind that pretty ugly number we just saw. Yeah, that fourth quarter loss wasn't just some fluke. It was really the capstone on a brutal year. For all of 2025, Centene's adjusted earnings landed at just $2.08 per share. Now, to put that into perspective, for a company of this scale in this industry, that is a serious underperformance. It was crystal clear that something big had to change, and it had to change fast. But okay, enough of the bad news, right? This is where the story gets really interesting. Let's get into the 2026 comeback plan because the numbers they're aiming for are, well, they're incredibly ambitious. I mean, just look at this jump. From $2.08 in 2025 to a target of over $3 in 2026. That is a projected growth of more than 40% in a single year. In the world of giant healthcare companies, where you're usually happy with single-digit growth, you just don't see numbers like this. This isn't just tweaking a few things. This is a full-blown overhaul. And get this, they're not just whispering this goal internally. This slide here is taken directly from their big presentation to investors. They are putting these numbers out there for the whole world to see, publicly committing to this plan, and showing everyone the exact financial roadmap they're going to follow to hit that massive growth target.
So the million-dollar question is, how on earth are they going to pull this off? Well, it all starts with their biggest and, frankly, most challenging business unit, Medicaid. Okay, to really get why Medicaid was such a problem, you have to understand one key little metric, the health benefits ratio, or HBR. It's actually pretty simple. For every single dollar Centene collects in premiums, the HBR is just how many cents of that dollar they spend on actual medical care. So a lower HBR is better for profits. And yep, you guessed it, theirs was way too high. So how do you wrestle that HBR number down? They've got this 4-part attack plan. First, they're optimizing their provider networks, really zeroing in on the ones that are both high quality and cost-effective. Second, they're beefing up their clinical programs to manage patient care more effectively. Third, they're going back to the states they partner with to push for better payment rates. And finally, they are getting very serious about ramping up their fraud detection. And here's a perfect real-world example of what that looks like. They actually created a special task force to look into something called ABA therapy, which is for children with autism. Their data was showing them that a few providers were basically maxing out the billable hours for every single kid, no matter what that child's individual needs were. Now, that kind of thing doesn't just drive costs through the roof, which, kills that HBR, but it also makes you wonder about the quality of care. So by targeting these outlier providers, Centene is trying to do 2 things at once: lower their costs and actually improve care for patients. Okay, next up in this comeback strategy, a massive, and I mean massive, reset of their health insurance marketplace business. And when I say reset, I am not kidding. Just look at this. They are going from 5.5 million members at the end of last year to a projection of around 3.5 million by the end of this quarter. That is a drop of 2 million members. Now, I know your first thought might be, wait, that's a disaster. But believe it or not, this was a deliberate move. So why in the world would a company want to lose 2 million customers? Well, the answer lies in something called the Enhanced Advanced Premium Tax Credits, or APTs. These were basically federal subsidies that made insurance plans a lot cheaper for millions of Americans.
But when those expired, Centene knew the entire market was about to change in a big way. So they got ahead of it and completely repriced their plans to focus on a smaller, but hopefully more profitable slice of the market. And you can see that strategy playing out right here in the data. The percentage of their members on so-called bronze plans, those are the ones with lower monthly premiums but higher deductibles, has shot up from an average of 22% to over 30%. This shows they're successfully attracting a different kind of customer now that those federal subsidies are gone. It was a conscious choice. Trade sheer volume for a smaller, more stable, and more profitable group of members. All right, so Medicaid is being fixed and the marketplace is getting a total reset. But it wasn't all bad news. Let's talk about a real bright spot in their portfolio, their Medicare business, which has been a consistent source of strength. You know, while all this drama was unfolding in their other divisions, Medicare has been the steady hand on the wheel. It's a story of slow, consistent, predictable progress. They've got a goal to make their Medicare Advantage business break even by 2027, and they are right on track to hit it. And this might not be the most flashy part of the comeback story, but it's arguably one of the most critical. That stability gives them the financial breathing room they need to make these other big, bold moves. Okay, finally, let's look beyond the immediate fixes and talk about the long game. Because this comeback plan isn't just about surviving 2026, it's about building a high-tech future by going all in on artificial intelligence. And again, you don't have to take my word for it. The CEO, Sarah London, said it herself, AI is going to be a critical lever and accelerant for everything they do. For Centene, AI isn't just some tech buzzword. They see it as absolutely fundamental to their future success and efficiency. And this isn't some far-off pipe dream either. They're already putting AI to work right now. They're using it for everything from making their call center smarter to speeding up those annoying prior authorizations for medical procedures. But the part that really stands out is their fight against fraud. They're deploying more than 75 different AI algorithms just to sniff out and flag potential fraud, which, as you know, is one of the single biggest costs in the entire healthcare system. So there you have it. It is a detailed, aggressive, and incredibly ambitious plan to engineer a major turnaround. They're fixing their core Medicaid business, hitting the reset button on a huge market, and betting their future on technology. But, as we all know, healthcare is a wild and unpredictable world. The plan looks good on paper, but the billion-dollar question remains, will this high-stakes bet actually be enough?